In an unprecedented move, the Justice Department has unsealed an indictment charging a sitting Mexican governor with international drug trafficking.
These officials use their positions of trust to protect cartel operations, enabling a pipeline of deadly drugs into our country.
The federal indictment outlined an unprecedented criminal enterprise charging a sitting Mexican governor with orchestrating a massive shadow empire. Across federal accounts, agents froze $870 million in illicit funds, seizing 1.2 tons of deadly narcotics on American soil. He was not just turning a blind eye to the cartels. Arturo San Roman was their chief logistics architect.
But he categorically rejects these accusations, calling them completely untrue and politically motivated.
In April 2026, the United States Department of Justice unsealed a historic indictment in the Southern District of New York targeting 10 current and former Mexican officials. They focused the sprawling federal probe on Arturo San Roman, a 3-term regional governor and the highly respected chairman of the Cross-Border Security Council. The governor's pristine public persona was built on aggressive anti-crime campaigns and deep cooperation with American authorities. According to the charging documents, the governor and his cabinet accepted millions in bribes, systematically shielding a violent cartel faction from investigation, arrest, and prosecution. They provided absolute impunity, allowing the criminal enterprise to flood American streets with poison. Drug Enforcement Administration and FBI task forces intercepted a massive shipment bound for the United States, seizing exactly 1.2 tons of fentanyl, heroin, and cocaine. Before the full scope of the betrayal is revealed, if you want to see where this trail leads, hit subscribe now. He temporarily resigned from his office, claiming he would fight the charges, while his political allies immediately accused the United States of violating Mexican sovereignty. The diplomatic fallout dominated international headlines, framing the indictment as an aggressive overreach by foreign courts. Beneath the political theater, physical evidence gathered by federal agents painted a far darker picture of systemic rot. They executed a tactical raid on a suspected cartel safehouse in Culiacan, discovering an anomaly that defied standard criminal operations. State police uniforms, government-issued radios, and official municipal fleet schedules were found neatly organized alongside cartel tactical gear, assault rifles, and body armor. Inside the compound, investigators discovered the lines between sovereign state authority and organized crime had been completely erased. They documented the exact origin of the intercepted narcotics, uncovering a massive operational shift. The seized 1.2 tons of drugs were not smuggled through hidden desert trails or covert underground tunnels. During the Border Interdiction Task Force, members found the massive payload concealed inside commercial trucks bearing the official authorized seals of the state government. Operational reports indicated the shipments were waved through checkpoints, protected by the very institutions sworn to stop them. The discovery shattered the initial theory of simple political bribery. Facing this undeniable physical proof, federal analysts began asking a much more dangerous question. They investigated whether the governor was running the entire logistics network directly from the state capital. Throughout the region, the cartel required secure, uninterrupted routes, utilizing political intimidation to lock down the territory. The financial fallout of the 1.2-ton seizure triggered a massive federal audit. FBI forensic accountants spent months tearing through municipal bank records, wire transfers, and tax filings. Beneath layers of redacted documents, the analysts discovered an $870 million black hole hidden deep within the official budget of the state. The stolen capital flowed through a complex maze of offshore accounts, eventually landing in the corporate treasury of San Roman Global Holdings. They identified the entity as a massive shell corporation masquerading as a legitimate public works contractor. By securing exclusive government bids, the holding company absorbed federal infrastructure grants, effectively turning public money into cartel operating funds. The unsealed indictment named a former high-level commander in the Culiacan Municipal Police, accusing him of directly assisting these cartel operations. As federal task forces dismantled the lower levels of the organization, the commander faced imminent arrest. During a midnight crossing at the northern border, the disgraced police official surrendered to American authorities. A decrypted digital ledger was handed directly to the FBI, exposing the exact mechanism of the financial crime. Investigators opened the files, finding detailed architectural blueprints, supply manifests, and construction schedules. Under the strict guise of municipal public works, San Roman used the federal infrastructure grants to construct state-of-the-art cartel smuggling tunnels. Private highways, fortified warehouses, and reinforced staging grounds were built using public funds. They mapped out a sprawling, fully operational supply chain funded entirely by the sovereign state. Through these state-sanctioned construction projects, the government poured thousands of tons of concrete to protect the illicit drug routes. The state government operated as a direct extension of the cartel logistics network. The municipal workforce effectively served as the premier distribution branch for the drug trade. Inside the fortified warehouses, cartel operatives packaged fentanyl, heroin, and cocaine with absolute impunity. The physical infrastructure allowed the organization to massively expand their smuggling operations. The decrypted ledger revealed the terrifying scope of the betrayal to federal investigators. With the supply chain fully integrated into the state apparatus, the product flowed continuously across the border. The massive shipments bypassed the most secure checkpoints in the world. The investigation now shifted to how a billion-dollar narco-state moved this staggering volume of contraband, without triggering a single United States intelligence alarm. The network moved millions of dollars in deadly narcotics into American cities. Inside, the San Roman Shadow Syndicate operations executed with absolute military precision. The logistics pipeline stretched thousands of miles, moving massive quantities of narcotics from staging grounds in Sinaloa through highly secured border crossings in Arizona and Texas, and directly into major distribution hubs in Brooklyn and Manhattan. They established an industrial-scale laundering machine designed to process the staggering profits without triggering federal banking alerts. Through a complex web of municipal bonds, fake construction invoices, and luxury real estate purchases in New York, the network washed $870 million of dirty money back into the legitimate financial system. This unprecedented financial engine effectively transformed cartel blood money into clean corporate assets, funding political campaigns and private empires. This financial expansion was protected by extreme violence. In October 2023, a Drug Enforcement Administration confidential source and their relative were violently kidnapped, brutally tortured, and murdered. The execution occurred rapidly, ordered immediately after the informant uncovered the most dangerous secret of the entire operation. They had acquired highly classified internal documents proving that San Roman deployed his personal state security detail to ride shotgun with the 1.2-ton cartel loads. These government police escorts guaranteed safe passage for the illicit shipments. The Drug Enforcement Administration officially designated this cartel faction as a ruthless criminal organization, holding them responsible for flooding American communities with lethal fentanyl and cocaine. The true power of the syndicate did not rely on standard street violence. Behind the protective shield of diplomatic cover, the organization successfully integrated cartel logistics directly into the sovereign state apparatus. The resulting architecture functioned as a fully operational narco-state, hiding perfectly behind the legitimate flag of an allied nation. They weaponized the exact government institutions designed to dismantle them. Following the unsealing of the historic federal indictment, the United States officially requested the immediate extradition of all 10 indicted officials. 0 targets are currently sitting in American custody. They remain securely entrenched behind international borders, protected by the exact legal frameworks they corrupted. Across the intelligence community, federal agents are now forced to confront an impossible reality. The operation relied completely on public state resources. Analysts must now determine how a billion-dollar narco-state operated undetected by American intelligence for years. The catastrophic security failure traces back to a single official title held by the governor himself. He commanded the entire regional intelligence apparatus, serving as the chairman of the Cross-Border Security Council. Through this supreme executive position, Arturo San Roman gained unrestricted access to the deepest operational blind spots of the Drug Enforcement Administration, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. United States and Mexican federal agencies routinely share sensitive tactical data, supposedly partnering to dismantle the exact cartel networks which these corrupt officials were actively shielding. They inadvertently handed the cartel logistics chief a real-time map exposing the exact weaknesses in American border defenses. During his tenure as chairman, San Roman received advanced briefings detailing border patrol shift changes, aerial drone surveillance schedules, and exact federal checkpoint coordinates. The 1.2 tons of seized narcotics moved perfectly through the region, routed completely around federal dragnet operations using classified American intelligence. He possessed the ultimate insider advantage, turning joint security meetings into cartel logistics planning sessions. Inside confidential briefing rooms, a senior United States liaison on the Joint Task Force repeatedly ignored massive financial anomalies explicitly tied to San Roman Global Holdings. Federal investigators were instructed to disregard the suspicious shell company, prioritizing diplomatic stability over national security. They allowed the massive infrastructure laundering machine to operate freely, desperate to avoid an international incident with a trusted partner nation. Following the historic indictment, unsealing the Mexican government immediately launched a massive public relations counterattack aimed directly at the Department of Justice. Official state representatives aggressively rejected the federal charges, publicly claiming that the American extradition request lacked sufficient evidence. They vowed to handle the sweeping corruption investigation internally, keeping the accused governor safely outside American legal jurisdiction. By leveraging this aggressive political pushback, the Syndicate activated their ultimate defensive weapon. The diplomatic shield guaranteed absolute protection, insulating the shadow network from direct prosecution. He knew that the complex mechanics of international law would always work in his favor. Even if federal agents physically intercepted the massive drug shipments, sovereign immunity and intense political friction would successfully block any immediate arrest warrants. The entire cross-border security apparatus was weaponized against the American public. It was never a failure of cross-border intelligence gathering. For years, the diplomatic system functioned exactly as the corrupt architects designed it. The San Roman logistics model did not die with the unsealed federal indictment. Across the southwest border and the Gulf Coast, this precise framework became the ultimate blueprint for narco-sovereignty. They replicated the shadow infrastructure, turning entire regional governments into untouchable corporate partners. The $870 million frozen by the Federal Bureau of Investigation represents merely a fraction of the total illicit wealth. From American streets to foreign bank accounts, billions were extracted and quietly injected into corrupt political campaigns. He built a financial machine designed to outlast any single law enforcement operation. Foreign officials accused of massive narcotics importation and weapons offenses actively weaponized their domestic legal systems. Behind the safety of sovereign borders, indicted politicians continuously delayed and blocked United States justice. Intelligence reports indicate they exploited international treaties to maintain absolute control over the region. The true human cost of this political protection is documented in regional casualty reports. Throughout Sinaloa, entire communities remained subjugated by horrific cartel violence. They were abandoned by the exact mayor, senator, and governor who swore an oath to protect them. Innocent civilians faced heavily armed cartel factions without any state defense. During the violent occupation, corrupt officials safely collected millions in protection money. Financial records confirm these officials prioritized cartel payments over civilian lives. Federal agents celebrating the massive New York seizure were completely manipulated. Inside the shadow network, the Syndicate intentionally sacrificed the 1.2 tons of seized narcotics as a tactical decoy. They absorbed the financial loss, deliberately distracting American task forces from the real prize. Much larger shipments of fentanyl and cocaine moved silently through the state-sanctioned public works infrastructure. Under the cover of legitimate municipal schedules, commercial trucks bearing official state government seals bypassed every single border checkpoint. They controlled the absolute flow of narcotics while Washington celebrated the single seizure. The evidence reveals massive vulnerabilities within the international diplomatic system. At the highest levels of government, the people possessing the power to fix extradition treaties and close intelligence sharing loops are the exact individuals benefiting from the blind spots. Extradition records show these exact officials actively protect the architecture that secures their authority. The Department of Justice escalated the operation, issuing historic charges against the Syndicate leadership. Deep inside foreign capitals, the architects of the Syndicate continue hiding behind sovereign borders. It leaves an open question regarding whether the network can be dismantled while its architects remain shielded by sovereign laws. Despite the historic Department of Justice indictment, all 10 defendants remain entirely out of American jurisdiction. The massive $870 million asset freeze successfully crippled the corporate shell of San Roman Global Holdings. Meanwhile, the disgraced governor continues operating his political machine freely inside Mexico. Under current international extradition treaties, federal prosecutors cannot enforce the mandatory 40-year prison sentence. The physical cartel architecture remains completely intact just miles across the southern border. They left behind state-funded smuggling tunnels, private commercial highways, and heavily fortified distribution warehouses. Without immediate federal intervention, this massive logistics network simply awaits the next political operator willing to assume absolute control. The next cartel proxy will inherit a perfectly designed smuggling system built entirely with stolen public infrastructure funds. Following his massive intelligence leak, the former police commander vanished entirely. During a covert extraction, United States Marshals placed the critical informant deep inside the Federal Witness Protection Program. The highly classified, decrypted ledger detailed the exact geographical coordinates of the smuggling routes. He surrendered the ultimate evidence but left the broader systemic corruption completely unchecked across the state. Sealed case files reveal a new threat emerging inside federal intelligence circles. The exposed San Roman Empire represents just one compromised node in a massive international web. Federal investigators must determine how many other trusted foreign partners are currently co-opting entire state governments. Using legitimate public works as cover, these unknown politicians are moving thousands of pounds of cartel narcotics. The mainstream media outlets will continually ignore the systemic rot hiding behind official government seals. They prioritize the illusion of diplomatic security over the brutal reality of sovereign betrayal. For viewers wanting to follow the power and expose the exact mechanisms behind these hidden networks, subscribe to the channel now. The ultimate intelligence blind spot remains intentionally wide open at the highest levels of cross-border politics. Syndicate leaders may have lost their primary corporate bank accounts and diplomatic visas. By exploiting the fundamental flaws in international law, they successfully secured their long-term freedom. The New York indictment merely documented the first successful integration of cartel logistics into a sovereign state apparatus. They provided a flawless blueprint already being utilized by the exact next generation of shadow politicians.